Well, I do want to thank you for coming today. This paper, the title of which is Radical Feminism in Focus, is actually an introduction to radical feminism. When Australia's Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, delivered her amazing speech naming misogyny for all the world to hear and think about, we witnessed a rare moment in history when feminist issues were front and centre of the political agenda. And while Australia's mainstream media were lukewarm about it, online media were not. The issue inhabited YouTube, online opinion sites, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, and because of that, feminists going about their daily lives in Australia had the opportunity to talk about misogyny with our friends and acquaintances in a way that hadn't been possible for quite some time. It felt like a rare moment in the sun when the spotlight was on our issues. What happened in the wake of the speech, however, was entirely predictable, because patriarchy has a way of absorbing even the fiercest of challenges to its existence. It simply expands and allows the criticism in, but makes sure the system itself, the status quo, is still intact. Now, how was that done in this instance? Well, with the help of liberal feminists. And I'm not criticising them here, they made the most of the moment and did a good job. What I'm saying is that patriarchy allowed liberal feminist issues to become the focus in the wake of the accusation of misogyny, but once again ignored radical feminist issues. We saw a focus on the treatment of women in politics, the dearth of women in leadership positions as CEOs and on boards, the equal pay debate, sexual harassment in the workplace, and so on. What we didn't hear is any mention of the misogyny that characterises pornography and prostitution, nor the continuing high level of men's violence against women, nor the ongoing and totally unacceptable levels of rape, nor the all too frequent murder of women and their children by men. And what radical feminists know is that until society is prepared to look at the serious imbalance of power demonstrated in those kinds of practices, the misogyny, the abuse, the subordination of women by men, until patriarchy is challenged at its root, nothing will change in real terms. Now, in this paper, Radical Feminism in Focus, I will present radical feminism as a radical ethical endeavour. First, I'll remind us of some definitions of radical feminism to make sure we're all on the same page, but also because I'm always inspired by feminism as it's defined by radical feminists. Second, I'm going to take a moment to remind us all of the significant differences between liberal and radical feminists. US feminist Leah Keith makes an important point when she says, if we understand the difference, we'll know that we're never going to meet in the middle. We'll never find a compromise that will allow us to meet. And in my view, that's okay as far as it goes. They'll continue, liberal feminists will continue doing their thing, and we'll do ours. But we do need to understand the difference. Then, in part 2 of this paper, I'll focus particularly on radical feminism and radical feminists. First, to discuss some of the potential pitfalls we need to be wary of as we try to have some impact on the injustices that continue to plague women's lives in the 21st century. And then to outline the radical feminist ethical endeavour today. Not the issues so much as the process, how we go about it. First, to a few definitions. How do we define radical feminism? Well, I've never been able to find a better definition than that proposed by Catherine McKinnon in 1987. She called it Feminism Unmodified. Radical feminists are not prepared to modify our analysis of patriarchy's oppression of women, nor to modify and water down our demands for change. Robin Morgan spoke of, and this is another definition, spoke of our stubborn commitment to the people of women, the courage to dare question anything and dare redefine everything. Diane Bell and Renata Klein, in their 1996 book, Radically Speaking, declared that the strength of radical feminism, again this is a quote, lies in its dynamism, in the fluid energy that links unapologetic intellect with unashamed passion. It is a means, not an end, a process, not a dogma. I just love that. Radical feminism links unapologetic intellect with unashamed passion. Another Australian feminist, radical feminist, Denise Thompson, in her book, Radical Feminism Today, simply calls radical feminism feminism per se. And it's true. Radical feminism is feminism. And all other groups claiming the name are modifications of the real thing, including liberal feminism. That doesn't mean we can't respect parts of their agenda and commend them for the wins they've had on behalf of women, but we do need to understand where we differ from them and why. So let's do a quick comparison between radical and liberal feminism, starting with my own expression of some of the differences. Liberal feminists take a gender-neutral approach, insisting that there is no difference between men and women, and that because we are the same, we should all be treated the same. They espouse equality, equal opportunity, equal respect. They call on women to claim their rightful place alongside men as their equals. Radical feminists, on the other hand, take an unequal power relations approach. We maintain that the dominance of men and the deliberate subordination of women points to the fact that the issue of power relations must be addressed before anything resembling equality can ever be achieved. Next point, liberal feminists focus on the individual woman. She can do anything, if only given access to equal educational and employment opportunities. Radical feminists, on the other hand, focus on the collective women and maintain that no amount of education for individual women will change the subordinate status of women, while misogyny goes unchallenged and unchanged. Liberal feminists are committed to free speech. Prostitution, pornography, sexualisation and the like are all supported by liberal feminists in the name of individual choice and free speech. Radical feminists, on the other hand, are committed to fair speech and call for all speech and actions causing harm to others to be disallowed. Like philosopher and free speech advocate John Stuart Mill, writing in the 19th century, we believe that all words and actions need to pass the fairness test before qualifying as free speech. And the last point, liberal feminists believe in working to effect change for women from within mainstream, negotiating with men and compromising where necessary, because they insist that change can best be effected from within. Radical feminists, on the other hand, prefer to agitate from the margins. We are careful not to be co-opted by the patriarchal system and will not compromise our values in order to be deemed acceptable by the mainstream. Because of our uncompromising stand, we are pushed to the margins of society. And in fact, as Mary Daly advocates, we opt for the margins as the most effective vantage point from which to protest and bring about change. Our activism is deliberately carried out from the margins. Now, my own comparison between liberal and radical feminism is similar, of course, to that of other radical feminists. Robin Morgan, after commenting on liberal feminism, put it like this: radical feminists refuse to settle for the individual solution. They refuse to settle for pornography and prostitution as faux sexual liberation. And they refuse to settle for playing by the boys' rules. For example, thinking that imitating establishment men could possibly be good for women. Leah Keith. Her list might look something like this. Liberals focus on individualism, radicals on group identity. You see the similarity between all of these. Liberals believe change happens through education, while radicals say change happens through dismantling unjust systems. Liberals believe in voluntarism, choice. We can choose not to be oppressed, they believe. Radicals say oppression is systemic. Liberals believe power is not an issue. Justice is served, they say, by appealing to abstract moral principles. Radicals say power is the issue. It must be redistributed. Justice will only be served by taking the power enjoyed by the powerful and redistributing it. So let me bring that all together. Radical feminism focuses on the collective, women, on unequal power relations between the sexes, on dismantling unjust systems, and on achieving justice for women, for all people, and for the planet.